Um, Very early on in the pandemic, I suppose at the start of last year, we were very much led by Westminster government and followed the UK measures. But it became very clear early on that Northern Ireland needed to take its own steps and needed to bring in its own restrictions and a strategy for itself.
And part of what we were struggling with for large parts of it was that a lot of the data wasn't particularly relevant to the situation here on the ground on any given day, with the result being, for example, contact tracing was stopped as a decision by the British government when cases reached a certain threshold, and they were quite high in England at that time. However, we still only had 42 cases here, and we probably still could have continued with the contact tracing. But I think, as Paula said, we very quickly realised we would have to be more flexible and dynamic than that.
The structure of the ad hoc committee, in essence, was primarily about information. The structure that we have within the Northern Ireland Executive is that we have the executive itself, which is effectively a cabinet, which is making decisions, and as Paula said, had representatives from all 5 parties on it. But as they took the decisions, obviously we as elected representatives, there are 90 members, so there's another 81 members or 79 members of the actual assembly that aren't part of the executive. And we were getting bombarded with questions. What does this restriction mean? Can I travel here? What, do I go to school? Do I not go to school? You know, will the shops open? What type of shops can open? We were getting bombarded by all these questions. And in reality, we sometimes, if a decision was taken on a Wednesday, it could be another week before we would actually be back in the assembly to be able to raise the questions. So a very smart decision was taken by someone at the start that said, well, let's form an ad hoc committee. So the ad hoc committee was established. That allowed the executive, the ministers, at very short notice to call the ad hoc committee together, maybe with just 24 hours notice. And I think there may have been occasions where it was even less notice. Bring the committee together. All 90 MLAs could get into the chamber. We could hear what the decisions were that were being taken.
I think, though, it's probably correct to say that the hardest hit sectors have been hospitality and tourism, because you know they literally couldn't open their doors. Some of our what became known as wet pubs, I don't know who thought up that one, but really traditional bars that only serve drinks, not food. Some of those were open for only 23 days between last March and Christmas, and up until just a couple of weeks ago, I think it was the 30th of April, that they were able to reopen outdoors only. From Monday, they will be able to open indoors. We're all really, really excited about that. Tourism has pretty much collapsed, as you know, has been the case around the world, and is going to take some time to rebuild.
I think one of the things we have always been focused on within the Committee for Health is not only how we can scrutinise and assist at the present time, but how we could capture learning for the future, for future waves of COVID-19 and for future possible pandemics. Because I think one of the things that COVID-19 did across the world, and certainly in the Western world, was exposed the reduction in public health infrastructure, in public health experts, and I think in data as well, I have to say.
Our vaccine rollout has been excellent. So it has down to 25-year-olds today, and I think, you know, huge recognition and gratitude has to go to all involved in that rollout, and we have volunteers who go to the vaccine centres and help with that as well. So it has been a real community effort in terms of that rollout. I think what we're beginning to see is other countries catching up, which is a good thing as well. Obviously, our closest neighbour is the south, where, you know, there's 2 jurisdictions on this island, and this week in the south, it's down to 45 to 49-year-olds can now register.
I mean, Northern Ireland, the world sees this divided society, but when Northern Ireland's back is against the wall, it is one community, and we saw that. I certainly saw that across Belfast, where you had what would be seen as 2 communities coming together, cooking meals, delivering meals, you know, just reaching out, reaching across and helping each other, which has always happened in Northern Ireland. That has happened for many, many decades here. That is how it has been. But I think COVID certainly did bring people together, because we knew that there were no barriers when it came to COVID.
Like everybody else, would like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this. I had an amazing time on my exchange with ACYPL when I visited the States. So just thanks very much for the opportunity to continue to engage.